Time ripples. God bless. The wizard returned to his workshop early the next morning. A cool breeze came through the open windows, carrying the smell of pine trees and the distant sounds of birds waking up. The sailboat had been a place for reflection, but the workshop was a place for experiments. Today the wizard wanted to try something bold. He wanted to test a system he and his AI assistant Lyra had been quietly building for months. They called it the Future Simulator. Not a crystal ball. Not prophecy. But a way of exploring possible outcomes based on data. Building the simulator, the wizard powered up the workstation. Screens lit up across the lab as streams of information appeared. Economic indicators. Climate models. Energy production data. Geopolitical risk indexes. Artificial intelligence development forecasts. Space exploration timelines. The wizard had spent years studying these fields. His background in engineering, electronics, and aerospace logistics from his time in the Air Force had taught him something very important. Complex systems often behave like living ecosystems. Change one variable, and the entire system begins to shift. Feeding the Data Lyra spoke through the speakers. Simulation environment ready. The wizard smiled. Let's see what tomorrow might look like. He began entering variables. Energy innovation rates. AI adoption curves. Population growth. International cooperation levels. Education investment. Military spending. Space industry growth. Within seconds, the computer began generating thousands of simulated timelines. Each one represented a slightly different version of the future. The butterfly effect. The wizard watched as branching timelines appeared across the display. One small change in policy produced huge consequences 20 years later. A slight improvement in education investment dramatically accelerated innovation. A small increase in global cooperation reduced the probability of conflict. The wizard leaned closer. So that's how it works, he whispered. History did not move in a straight line. It behaved more like a river with many branches. Every decision created ripples in time. Scenario 1: the AI acceleration in the first simulation. Artificial intelligence advanced rapidly. Automation transformed industries. Medical AI systems discovered treatments for diseases that had puzzled scientists for decades. Robotic manufacturing drastically reduced the cost of producing goods. Space exploration expanded quickly as companies such as SpaceX developed reusable launch systems and advanced robotics. The world economy grew. But there was also a challenge. Millions of workers needed retraining as old jobs disappeared. The wizard wrote a note. Technology alone cannot guarantee prosperity. People must adapt alongside the machines. Scenario 2: the resource struggle. The second simulation revealed a more troubling possibility. Competition for rare earth minerals and strategic resources intensified. Energy transitions created new economic rivalries. Some regions experienced instability as governments struggled to adapt. Trade systems fragmented. The wizard frowned. This scenario was not impossible. History had often followed similar patterns during periods of technological change. Scenario 3: the cooperative leap. Then the third simulation appeared. In this timeline, global cooperation improved gradually. Nations invested heavily in scientific collaboration. Artificial intelligence was regulated carefully to prevent misuse. Large international research programs emerged, coordinated by institutions such as the United Nations and various scientific alliances. Medical research accelerated. Clean energy systems expanded. Space exploration missions became multinational efforts. Humanity began building permanent infrastructure beyond Earth. The wizard stared at the screen quietly. This future seemed peaceful, optimistic, possible. The most surprising discovery, but something unexpected, appeared in the data. The simulations showed that small actions had enormous long-term influence. A modest increase in education funding in 1 decade produced technological breakthroughs 2 decades later. Improved diplomatic communication between nations reduced the probability of military conflict. Even small investments in scientific research created ripple effects across the entire global economy. The wizard leaned back in his chair. "The future isn't built by giant events," he said softly. "It's built by millions of small decisions." The wizard's realization he shut down the simulation. Outside, sunlight filled the workshop. The wizard stepped out onto the porch and looked across the trees. The world might feel chaotic. News cycles might make events seem overwhelming. But the simulator had revealed something important. The future remained flexible. Humanity still had the ability to steer the timeline. The wizard's entry in the logbook, he opened his leather notebook and wrote, "Future Simulator Observation Number 1: The destiny of civilization is not determined by fate. It is shaped by education, cooperation, ethical technology, curiosity, compassion, and the willingness of ordinary people to make good choices." The next question, Lyra's voice came from inside the workshop. "Wizard, there is something unusual in the simulation results." The wizard turned. "What did you find?" Lyra replied calmly. "There is a statistical anomaly. One timeline appears repeatedly across multiple simulations." The wizard walked back inside slowly. "What kind of timeline?" The AI paused for a moment. "A timeline where humanity discovers something unexpected, something not originally from Earth." The wizard raised an eyebrow. "Well," he said with a quiet grin, "that sounds like the beginning of another chapter. God bless."